Welcome to today's episode of the Dog Training Dogma podcast with your host, Jonathan Katz. With over 20 years in the canine industry, I've trained everything from service dogs for people with disabilities to personal protection dogs for survivors of assault. I've seen most and done most, and this is our take on dog training. Welcome. Hey. In the studio today is my apprentice, Isaiah. Isaiah, welcome.
How's it going?
Thank you for being in the studio with me.
Thank you for having me.
This is an important topic for me, and as being my main training decoy, I really care about your opinion and wanted you to weigh in on this topic. And so today's topic is training decoy versus trial decoy. Training decoy and trial decoys are very different things, but could also be the same. I know people that are phenomenal training decoys that, don't have the stamina to go out and charge at 20 dogs the same, or don't have the heart to do it, right? Because when you do trial work, especially for PSA, your job is to run that dog off the field. Your job is to test that dog, because as a judge, if you don't test that dog to the level and criteria of what the sport requires, you're now you're letting dogs go through, and you're not truly testing them. You're not keeping all dogs to the same standard. So I think it's really important that we keep all the dogs to the same standard. And as a judge, if a dog is runnable, and I watch the dog pops off and decoy freezes, doesn't even go into training mode. I've seen that before too, but just freezes and doesn't then push forward. We're not asking. It's not about kneeing the dog in the face, right? It's not that about then turning it into like a fend off, like secondary target, but we still have to charge forward towards the dog and impress the dog forward, because the dog has to make a decision. Either I'm going to rebite or I'm going to run away, right? We have something in PSA that I think is really important, is a term, and it's called prey bite. And prey bite is basically to save the dog. Prey bite is to save our training. Prey bite is to allow the dog to leave the field only being a little bit unsuccessful, not totally unsuccessful.
Yeah,
now,
I would say the part of the reason, at least my perspective on it, is because as a trial decoy, a lot of times I'm not even necessarily thinking about testing the dog per se. I'm thinking about testing that dog's training decoy. The training. Okay.
Oh, I like that take.
Right. So because I'm not blaming, I don't, like how we talked about on another episode, I don't want to blame the dog. That's not how I look at it. Yes. Right. It's always going to be a training thing for me.
On our previous episode 3, which was the washout episode.
Right. So I don't like calling dogs washout. I think you could get them to their max potential, and therefore they're not washed out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I'm a trial decoy, I'm trying to see what you did as it, and the reason we do the prey bite is therefore because the dog's not at fault here.
Once you've seen it,
yeah, we
don't need to push it anymore.
Right. I just showed you where your training flaws are, and then that's it. Now I help the dog again.
Now you should go back and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that takes a skilled training decoy. Mm-hmm. A skilled training decoy gets the dog ready for the trial decoy. Now, you can find you a decoy who can do both, right? I found me a decoy who can do both, but it's find someone that can help you build the dog, right? The more important decoy is the training decoy. The trial decoy is a lot easier, because all they have to do is come out at the right time, charge in a straight line, impress the dog. If the dog pushes through, catch the dog, drive the dog, freeze up, lock up, and don't move. Right. So it's a very
mindless.
It's very choreographed.
Yeah.
Right. PSA work, decoy work is more in the choreographed nature of IPO or IGP or Schutzen. Right. It's you're gonna charge at the dog, you're gonna catch the dog, you're gonna do the same movements, as opposed to a ring decoy. A ring decoy is there to look for the holes in your dog's entry. Right? Look for, as the dog's coming in, where's the dog looking, and basically esquive, dodge, and evade the dog. Now, in French ring, they have running dogs, but because they're dodging and evading the dog and they're moving away from the dog, the goal of the French ring trial decoy is just to get the dog to stop. Once the dog stops, everything stops. There's a video from, I want to say it's like maybe the early 90s or in the 80s, and it's a video of a French ring decoy basically running a dog. The dog gets to the point where it stops, and then when it stops, he like charges at it with the stick, and the dog turns around and runs away. And
I think you told me this story.
One of the club members is definitely a club member. I'm just discerning. I don't know the whole story, but one of the club members leaps over the field and goes and just like drop kicks the decoy, and you basically have a bunch of club members like kicking the crap out of this decoy in his suit. Reminded me of a story of Strong Island one time, almost caught a charge. But, we have self-restraint. But in that moment, I would have done the same thing. I would have jumped over because once you get the dog to stop, that's their prey bite.
Yeah.
So to me, when as a judge, I yell prey bite. I'm the one that says, hey, enough is enough. We have now tested what that dog's nerve threshold is. And we've passed that threshold, but not to the point where the dog is. But I have seen dogs that have literally
don't want to take it,
run back, either don't want to take it, or I have seen dogs run to the parking lot underneath a vehicle. Like it's really hard to see, and that's not the dog's fault. That's the training decoy's fault. That's the handler's fault of putting them in that situation. The dog doesn't know. The dog doesn't buy themselves a scorebook. The dog doesn't put on their agitation collar. Like, the dog doesn't do any of that. We tell the dog what they're going to do, and we have to prepare the dog. But who gets Mike Tyson? Who gets Floyd Mayweather? Who gets professional fighters ready for a fight? They have a sparring partner.
Yeah.
That sparring partner is there to teach them and prepare them for that big fight.
And most of the time, another just small note, those like big successful fighters have multiple skilled sparring partners and coaches, but that are all on similar systems so that they could generalize their system across with same movements. It shouldn't be like, generalization shouldn't be like, oh, you work my dog, like you put the foundation and then I'm going to go to somebody that does something completely different for generalization.
Different movements.
Yeah, that's not generalization. No. It has to be like similar shit for the first things.
You need to bridge. And usually when we try to bridge from decoy to decoy is we take a step back to where the dog is in training. So let's say the dog's on the suit on one decoy.
Right.
And the dog's looking really good. The dog's showing us what we want. When I go to that next decoy, I go back to bicep sleeve or I go back to leg sleeve and I re-teach the picture of you can win on this new guy and you can slip, right? It's the sparring partner having pads, not also wearing gloves, right? Because now when the new sparring partner is wearing gloves, like, okay, now we're fighting, right? It might still be sparring, but pads, you hit me,
right?
I might throw out something to make you block it, but pads, you hit me, right? So it's really important that a training decoy understands that concept and understands that mentality of like, you're the one that gets them ready for the fight. I'm a big guy. I can be very intimidating to a little puppy. So what do? I use that, what my body could be intimidating to teach this puppy to win and teach this puppy to push through me. And if this little, 15, 20 pound puppy can beat me up, like, he's a monster in his mind. I want my dog to think that they are Denzel Washington on training day, right? King Kong ain't got nothing on me. Like, the only person that dog truly respects is me, and everyone else is subservient to them, right? They have to be social. They have to be okay with people. But, when it comes to biting and in a fight, like, they always win. They win 100% of the time.
Yeah.
It's not 99.999999999. It's 100%. We can't give that dog doubt. If we give that dog doubt, when they step in the ring, when they step on the trial field, they will then have doubt, right? So, what do we look for in a trained decoy? I know for me, I will not let a decoy touch my dog until I've seen them work other dogs.
Right.
I've seen what they can do, even if it's a dog they're familiar with, but I want to see what their movements are. I want to see where their feet are. I see all the time people doing static catches, and I see videos, training videos on the internet of people like being taught how to decoy, and you see the new decoy standing there like this. And you're like, the percentage chance of the momentum and inertia sending them this way and them falling on their ass or falling on their face, potentially injuring the dog, potentially injuring themselves, is very high. And if you watch those videos, at least 50% of the time the decoy goes down, depending on how hard that dog hits. Now, if we stagger our feet, if we put our left leg forward on a static catch, and now when we go back, all that momentum and inertia we can absorb that dog. Like, if you don't know where your feet are, I'm not letting you touch my dog.
Right.
Like I'm not going to dance with you if I think that there's a chance that you're going to step on my toes. Right? Like, if we're going to waltz, you got to be able to move when I move, you move, right? You know, what do you look for what's a trait you look for in a training decoy, Isaiah?
I guess the biggest thing for me is like understanding what the dog could take and can't take, and not trying to put on a show for the cameras, and versus like just train the dog that what it needs to be seen.
So that goes to, you're saying, a training decoy without an ego.
Yeah, but
because
like,
if we're putting on a show, it's about the decoy, it's not about the dog.
Right. Yeah, it's like they want to be able to say like, look, I could train a dog to take all this pressure, but if the dog's then therefore can't take the,
How many dogs do we see every year and they are trained every session with tons of pressure, and the dog takes it and they take it and they take it, and they're like, man, he's freaking bulletproof. And then at about a year and a half old, you stop seeing videos. You stop seeing the dog. You go, where did the dog go? Ah, man, he wasn't shit. And you're like, what happened? He was fire until he wasn't fire anymore? No, I would just say that dog took so much pressure for over and over again.
Without wins.
And then one day the dog's like, yeah, I just don't enjoy this anymore.
Right.
I do bite work with my dogs because my dogs enjoy biting people, right? Like, it's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons. And as a training decoy, you're going to be even extra snobby on, like, I know how it's supposed to be done properly. There's maybe like a handful, 2 handfuls of decoys, people that I would ever let touch one of my puppies. The average person, I watched a video of someone with a mentorship program talking about how that they should be able to their students should be able to post videos without ridicule of them working puppies. And I'm watching a video of someone that has no idea what they're doing, like just horrible communication with this little puppy, and you're watching stress, and you can't learn at the same time. Trained decoy trains dog, trained dog trains decoy. So I know it sounds counterproductive, but you got to start at the other end. You start with a finished trained dog. If you're going to learn to be a race car driver, they're going to give you a car that you can turn on and go. You're not then going to start building the car from scratch, right? But then on the side, in the back, in the garage, we can tinker and we can build our own car. But in the beginning, you got to just learn how to drive. How often, what percentage of the population, parents are like, okay, you turn 16, you get your license. Now build yourself a car, and then I'll teach you how to drive. Like, it doesn't work that way. You go, here are the keys to an old Toyota Camry. It has airbags. You're not going to die. Let's learn how to drive this thing safely, right? Well, statistically, you see like children that come from like the ultra rich, and they're given really fast cars when they're young, and they wrap them around trees. Right? Like, it's too much. It's too fast. You have to control the situation. And a training decoy is so important because they're the ones that build the dog. Without the training decoy, I have nothing, right? Without you, I have nothing. Without the rest of my club decoys, I have nothing. Without our friends that come and visit and train with us, like, I have nothing. And now, once you get the dog to the point where, like, okay, they know how to fight and they're good at it, you can then put the dog on a decoy with lesser experience, as long as they're not going to be jammed, they're not going to be injured, their neck's not going to get twisted. Like, when you come to learn how to decoy, the first thing you got to do is just be able to catch a dog. Catch this dog safely. I don't need you to charge forward. I need just like a straight static catch, left bicep, left leg. I don't need you to have any ring technique. We work on that later. We'll build up to that. But in the beginning, just very basics, because I can take my trained dog and I can go out there and I can work directionals with 6 brand new decoys, as long as they can absorb and catch and they're not going to injure my dog or teach my dog to gather. Because here's the other thing. You have a hard-hitting banger, and then it bangs and it bangs and it bangs and it bangs until one day it's like, I'm not going to bang as hard. Today I'm not going to bang as hard because every time I'm going to get hit, right? The dog has to be a masochist to want to keep making contact like that. I know dogs like that, but the average dog, when we see people teaching courage tests, it's always forward. It's always forward. It's always forward. What about, I'm not telling you to always do runaways, but what about the random like stop and backpedal? Stop and turn away, and the dog's like, whoa, 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 where are you going, right? The drive that dog kicks, the drive it kicks the dog into, it's the guessing, it's the wonder. At any moment, this guy's charging at me. Could they turn around and run away? They turn around and run away because they're afraid of me, right? And this is the mentality of the dog.
I would say understanding, like, not just the threshold, but like just the like. I don't know, like caring for the dog is what I kind of was trying to get at. Like, meaning, like, you're not doing this, you're just trying to get this particular dog better. It's not because, dogs at this level should be able to handle this. It's just, I'm teaching this one dog, you know what I mean? Understanding that dog.
There are no timelines.
Yeah.
People are like, when do I do this and when do I do that? I'm like, I can't give you that answer because every dog's an individual. Some dogs need longer timelines. Some dogs need shorter timelines. Dobermans need longer timelines. If you don't give them longer timelines and you try to train them like they're Malinois, when a trainer says to you, I want to title this Doberman, and they've only ever titled Malinois, and you go, well, why do you want to title this Doberman? I want to show diversity. I want to show that I can title off-breeds. And then you watch the person train, and the dog's nervous about someone around them, and now they're stemming the dog into heel like it's a Malinois. Now the dog's more nervous. You're like, you're literally defeating the purpose of what your intentions are, to show that you have adaptation, to show that you can adjust and create individual communication for each individual dog. You can't train them like they're Malinois. If you could train them like they're Malinois, they would act would mean they act like Malinois, and they don't, right? I love Dobermans. I train a ton of Dobermans. I love training Dobermans, except for we have to understand the fact that they need more generalization and they need more communication. And if you can show a Malinois picture in 100 pictures, Doberman just needs 500. But once you give them the 500, they're good. They're solid. They're amazing. It's a beautiful thing to watch, But nonetheless, you have to teach them and you have to show them. And if you expect them, and that's why a lot of training decoys fuck up Dobermans. Mm-hmm. People come with nice genetically correct Dobermans, and they constantly reach that dog's nerve threshold, and they're constantly teaching that dog that they don't always win, and then the dog starts to doubt themselves. I haven't seen that picture. What am I supposed to do? Like when the dog jumps, how tall is your training decoy? Is your training decoy 5'5"? Well, when you go to trial and it's a 6'4" decoy, is the dog going to jump to 6'4" or 6 foot? Not going to jump to the face. They're going to jump to the bicep, like 6 foot. No, the dog's probably going to jump to 5'1.5", right? The dog's going to jump to the distance that they've been trained to do, because you have to generalize that dog, right? So I think what you were saying, like care, that goes to like empathy, mm-hmm. right? If you don't have empathy for the animal, how can you truly raise them to be? It's like being raised with, I'm very thankful that I don't have this experience, but being raised with narcissistic parents, right? You have parents that were very nurturing and caring and guiding, but expected a lot out of you. But I think they have a huge factor into helping to create the person that you are today, because they taught you work ethic. What was it, the second time that you came to train that moms came?
Yeah, second or third time,
right?
Like
and she's
that.
like, I want to see what this guy's about. I want to see who my son's spending time
mm-hmm.
with, and I like that, and I kind of respected that about her. That it's nice to see when like people are so involved and families so involved, and it's it makes me happy, because it goes to the nurturing, it goes to the caring, it goes to the reason why you're able to do what you're able to do.
Right.
So shout out to moms. Shout out to
Thanks.
moms.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. We appreciate you. So empathy. I think empathy is really important. Nerve threshold. Can they read nerve threshold? Can they read? Are they only reading when the dog reaches the threshold, or are they reading the prelude behaviors to reaching that threshold? If you can only see it once the dog is getting ready to pop off, that's way too late. That's way too late. I can't tell you how many times I've had someone bring me their dog to show me that the dog has issues in bite work, and I work the dog, and the dog never pops off. And we end the session. I tell them to put the dog away, and the handler goes, I'm happy, but I'm also kind of upset. And I go, well, why are you happy and why are you kind of upset? I'm happy because the dog didn't show the issue that they were having, but I'm kind of upset that you didn't get to see it. And I go, oh, I saw it. I just saw it 3 steps ahead. I didn't let you see it, and I didn't let the dog see it. And they're like, It's because they've been working with decoys that can't read thresholds. That's
Right.
all it is. And it takes a long time to be able to read thresholds. That's why you stay in your lane. That's why you work the dogs that you can. Like I never wanted to fuck up puppies. Like I love puppies. Like fucking up puppies really makes me depressed. I was giving a seminar years ago with another instructor. Someone called me and said, "Hey, would you do a joint workshop?" And I'm like, it's not something I would typically do, but the money is green, and so I agreed to it. And we're working dogs kind of on the same field. I'm working a puppy, and they're working a puppy. And I look over, and they have this German Shepherd puppy, and they're like, the puppy's maybe 3 months old, and it's on a rag, and they're like picking it up off the ground and a bunch of stick. And I'm like, and I can't control myself sometimes, and I look over, I go, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he looked at me like, "What are you doing? What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Don't do that to that puppy. One bad experience, one negative experience creates childhood trauma. Puppyhood trauma. Puppyhood trauma is serious. And so we don't want to give that puppy pain in its mouth." And the chance of, and it's a German Shepherd puppy, just because it can doesn't mean it should. It's holding off. It's holding on to the rag over the ground. Like, what if, God forbid, is there a 2% chance that the puppy slides off, lands on its hip, and then injures its hip, and then we can't compete? Like, we have to care about this dog's body. And just because it can doesn't mean it should. Just because it can take all this pressure doesn't mean because it can. I think people do it because they think it looks cool.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks cool. I think it looks bad. I think it looks like you're caring now about what the puppy is at the moment, not what that puppy should be as an adult.
Right. And I feel like the whole reason we've invented, as dog trainers, the whole reason sports, at least to my understanding, was invented was a standard way that we as trainers could compare our training. So, like, why do we need to show it in training? Just come on the field and show everybody where you could dog. And that's the only time the dog has to experience that level of stress without a win.
For sure. And the funny part about that is I've heard it from more and more people that are like, "Oh, I only do personal protection," have failed PDCs. A PDC is literally a protection dog certificate. You don't need a heads up heel. The dog has to be able to walk on a loose leash next to you, listen to you. And people come out and they're like, "I just do personal protection," and their dog can't get a protection dog certificate. Do they really do personal protection? Like, it's mind-boggling that you just need basic control that a personal protection dog should have. Why is that dog not capable of performing those basic techniques?
Right.
Protecting your vehicle. I did a mock trial a week ago, and there was a dog that wouldn't get in the car on Saturday at the mock trial. Like, just wouldn't get in the car, couldn't jump up into the car. And so we said, "Hey, tomorrow, if you're showing tomorrow for a PDC, like, you can't help your dog into the car." And it took her a bunch of runs to try to get the dog into the car. And then the dog didn't bark, barely looked out the window, kind of bit, held on, outed the second that I told them to out, and didn't bark. And I said to the handler, "I'm sorry, we don't have enough points to pass." And she's like, "Okay." And then after I'm sitting down after the trial, I'm trying to cool down under a tent. And the trained decoy comes to me and says, like, There was another Malinois that was out at the window, not making a sound, but like clearly showing intent that they're going to bite, clacking. I can audibly hear teeth. And they go, how come that Malinois passed and my German Shepherd didn't pass? And I was like, okay, now that you're going to confront me and corner me, like you're going to seek me out to corner me now, you want to have this conversation? I said, the one dog showed intent, the other dog showed no intent. I go, trust me, I want to see dogs pass. Like, I want to give them the points. I can't give them the points if the dog doesn't do it. And so they just were not understanding. I said, well, it's a civil scenario. It's a carjacking behavior. I go, that dog was not intimidating. The dog was just kind of like staring at me. And so I can't give them the points. It's their points that they lost because they didn't properly prepare the dog. You can't then come to me and question why one dog passed and another dog didn't. Well, those two routines were very different. And the person barely passed. They got a 23, which is you need 22 and a half points to pass. I killed them on points for no barking, but they still, nonetheless, they passed. If I came up to that window, I would not get close enough to that window because that dog was going to reach out and grab my arm. But there wasn't any barking. It is a civil scenario, right? It's the decoy's job to teach that dog what they're supposed to do in the car. Because for me, my dogs are we train our dogs as our dogs are personal protection dogs, but we do sport for fun. You know, like if the dog won't bite in a real life situation, I don't want it. Like it's of no use to me. We don't play Nerf bite work. Like this isn't shenanigans. This is real life, and the dog is a first line of defense, and the dog is there to protect us, and we're there to protect the dogs, and vice versa. We're a fucking team. I'm Halle Berry. I don't look like Halle Berry, but I'm Halle Berry. I got two Malinois, and I can send one to the left and one to the right, and, you know, imagine if I looked like Halle Berry. That'd be awesome. But the concept is you know, the dogs are there to protect us on the way to the trial. If we get carjacked on the way to the trial, the dog should protect the car. Right. It shouldn't be like the dog just staring at me, and then when the person steals your car, they go over and ask the thief, like, hey, why were you not intimidated by my dog?
Right. That makes me think about, like, I guess you could say there's a little bit of gap even between, like, people who just do training and then trial decoys. Because, like, you'll see training decoys go up to trial decoys like, oh, that was too much. What, you're too cocky, want to show off for the dog? And it's like, well, if you're really training, you should know what I'm gonna do. Like, you should be watching film of what decoys do at trials. You should look the rebook, so you know exactly what's valid, what's not, and prepare the dog for even more than that. Like, cause like you're gonna blame it on me, but I just did what the judge told me. Like, you know what I mean?
He's literally doing his job. If he doesn't do his job, he gets yelled at.
Right.
And I will go into a blind and yell at a decoy for not doing their job. Right? Like, when you're a trial decoy, you have to take off that training decoy hat if you can do both. You know? Now, if I don't know a decoy, but someone that I know that I trust vouches for them, I'm still going to like start off really vanilla and green, but I'll trust them more because obviously an opinion goes a long way. Mm-hmm. You know? When I first met Paul, he was going to a decoy camp, and I was going to the same decoy camp, and the club member that I was going with didn't want to ride in the vehicle with me. It turned out it was for the better, but Paul was going down, and so I said to Jeff, I said, hey, like, tell Paul if he wants to come with me, drive from Massachusetts, come to Long Island, leave your car here, and you'll drive down with me. I'll drive. You can get some rest. You know, it'd be nice to get to know you because Jeff tells me so much about you. But because Jeff sent him, like, I knew right away I could send my dog on him, and I knew he was going to catch my dog safe. If he can catch Ryu, then he can catch my dog.
Right.
Right? So the being vouched for definitely goes a long way of what your skill set is, because I trust Jeff to never overinflate someone's skill set. He's gonna be 100% honest. He's never gonna be rude, but he's going to be honest of what that person is capable of doing. Right. And so, like, being vouched for, you know, when it was 2016 Nationals, open field, and Pat Stewart came out and it was his first nationals he had come to, and he had brought his suit. And he was out there in open field, and I had watched him. I watched his movements. I watched him run around with the dog, and I said, you know what? I'm like, yeah, do you mind helping me with my dog? I didn't have any other decoys with me. I said, hey, can you help me? He said, sure, mate, and help me. And then it was just funny to watch other competitors come out and be like, I don't know this guy. What's he doing? I've never seen him before. He's from Australia. And I'm like, no, the guy can actually, like, he's a good decoy. He can catch a dog. I trust him.
Yeah.
And I had never met him before. But I watched his movements. I think I'm a pretty good judge of skill set, and the guy's got skill. So, I didn't need to see more. I didn't need to be condescending to the fact that I didn't know this person. I watched him. I watched him catch a couple dogs. I'm like, okay, I trust you.
Yeah.
Right? So the being able to read it, but when you're young and you're inexperienced, you don't know who to trust. Like if someone vouches for someone, or you watch them and what they can do and what they can produce. We have the internet. People post videos. I know ahead of time, usually from watching videos, what the person's capable of from what they've shown on the video.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what makes a good trial decoy?
For me, it's just the ability to, like, the main thing is the ability to turn off training, and you're just trying to take points from that dog at that moment. How
do you personally? I know how I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I was a trial decoy from 2012 till it was like 2014, 2015. I don't remember. When I became a judge, I gave up my cert. But how do you personally? Because I've never seen you do it. You've in 2 years of certification, you've done a lot of trials. I've never seen you ever think about going into training mode, and I've seen decoys do it, and they're not doing it on purpose. It's an innate response of the dog's not dealing well with pressure, so I have to help this dog. How do you turn it off?
I make up stuff that the handler or a dog did to me or said to me, okay. And then I just get angry, and I just use that as like a.
But what makes you not? So you're manifesting a mentality of that we're not friends.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to play within the rules.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to play with what I'm told to do, but we're not friends, and I'm not here to help you right now.
Yeah.
Because if you were on the field with me, like, yes, we're not friends.
So yeah, like that's what I was about to say. For like you and Heather, it's harder for me to make up those, like, people I know closer.
Yeah.
So like, unless there's like a direct situation that's going on in the moment, which you feel me. But in let's say for like you with Cheetah, it was me trying to test my own training.
Yeah.
So like, why I can't go into training because now. Like because I always want to train and I always want to make sure the dog's good in training, I never have a chance to actually be like, let me just let loose and see what I've done with this dog. So for like Cheetah and Bandit, it's an opportunity to be like, I could just go and see where now, like without having to like, cause like, okay, in training sometimes there's maybe times where I'm looking at Bandit, I'm like, damn, I maybe could have got him to bite right there, but I cool off because we're training. But in trial, I could see, maybe he wouldn't have. He looked like he was going to bite, but maybe he made a good decision in the end.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, game on.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah is, now that we're training for the twos, Isaiah's been talking shit to Heather for over a year now. But now he's like, I can't do this in the ones. Now that Cheetah's getting ready for the twos, he's determined to get me to acknowledge him in training. And I have not slipped up yet, and I'm determined
really
to
hard.
not acknowledge. I've made eye contact with him. But I've never said a word, and so I respect the hustle. I respect that you are practicing your craft, because it's not always about just running dogs. It's about getting in people's heads. It's about getting the dog to bite when they're not supposed to, and it's not always about aggression that makes them do it. One of my favorite things to do while decoying the upper levels in a trial is get dogs to bite. I love that I just ran away at the right time and created prey at the right exact time. Once the dog made a decision, now I'm the Capitone baby. Now the dog bites me in the ass. Thank you. See you again. We'll see you at the next trial. Let's give a round of applause. Trust me, I've had it. I've had it happen. But I've also had, and this is in the past, and we've refined all this, But I've had decoys try to shove their arm in my dog's mouth in a trial.
Yeah.
Like I was competing in Ohio with another gentleman, Scott Norgren. He has his dog Caesar was the first Doberman to ever get a PSA 2, and the first one to ever show in the 3s. And we were both competing against each other. Uzi went out and he didn't pass obedience. And as I'm going to the car, Scott's like, dude, that was awesome. And I was like, the fuck did you just watch? I'm like, that sucked. And he goes, no. The decoy tried to shove his arm in your dog's mouth. So Uzi kind of like went out to go chase a decoy. I called him back. And as he came around into heel, the decoy tried to literally shove his arm in his mouth. And Uzi went underneath and didn't bite. And so in hindsight, yes, it's extremely impressive. At the time, I was pissed. I'm pissed because that decoy, who had never titled a dog in PSA, has no respect for the level of training that it takes to get a dog to that. Even not fuck like pressure to actually get through it, but just to get to the dog to that point.
Right.
That means you already have your 2, right? Like that's a lot of work, and that decoy was not fair. Now this is pre 3-foot bubble rule. This is pre max 4 decoy rule. So might have 10 decoys on the field, and decoys were allowed to straddle your dog. You know, the more violent that decoys would get, the more intrusive decoys would get, the more violent I would get, and the more intrusive I would get. There's nothing in the rule book that says I can't push decoys. There's nothing in the rule book that when a decoy straddles my dog that I can't push him off of the dog, because the rule book doesn't say that he can and can't straddle, and they don't say that I can and can't put my hands on a decoy. When I go and do a transport, I grab the decoy by the collar. You know, like, let's go, let's move. I'm going to show you where I want you to move because it's your job to move with me when I give my command and I move. Right? So that's another thing as a trial decoy. Like we also have to we have to be fair.
Respect,
now,
yeah. Respect for the game.
Respect for the game. Thank you, Isaiah. That's what I was looking for. It's the word is respect. Respect, and even if you haven't titled a dog to PSA 3, nonetheless, you still have the level of respect that it takes to get to that point.
Yeah, and I would argue though it go both ways because like yes, you could go too hard and show lack of respect, but you could go too soft and also show lack of respect, in my opinion.
For sure.
Because if you're not doing, like, if you're just standing out there, it's like you just let them.
Like if I go to a trial and it's 4 brand new decoys and I'm like, come on, guys, you gotta give me more.
You just let them, like, because then it's not on you. You have the dog did it, so it's like, but now as the decoy.
But it is on me because I'm the judge and I let it happen.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. It's really difficult.
Tricky situation.
Like I've been actively judging and stewarding and be like, more guys, come on, louder, seriously, louder, and they're like, ah, like you do your job. You don't need to scream the entire time. You need to scream and you need to scream.
Right.
You know, if I have a quieter decoy, I might give them cans for certain situations. Like, hey, use these cans because these cans are going to make you louder. You know,
in certain situations.
In certain situations. In other situations, don't be can guy, right? So you have to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off, right? You know, to me, again, a good trial decoy has the ability to turn off training mode. They're not a training decoy that day. Now, like the conversation that when Jeff and Paul were on, and Jeff and I were talking about, like, you know, continuing to run dogs and then going back and helping the person after, like, to me, that's honorable. You won the fight. Now go and help them. And then the next time when they go out and they do well, it's also because the dog did well, but it's also because you also helped them. And you helped that dog generalize. And even though you weren't the only one that did it, but you had a hand in helping that because it takes a village. And some of your village might not be like your inner village. It might be other people that you met along the way, travelers, that helped and added something to the village.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, for me as a judge, the training decoy needs to be able to take direction.
The trial
decoy needs to be able to take direction. Training decoy too, for that matter. You know, something I forgot to talk about with the training decoy is a decoy's ability to adapt to different systems.
Yeah.
I don't train dogs the same way as other people. And when I meet and I train with new trainers, especially like when I do ring, I train ring the same way I train PSA dogs.
Right.
There's different techniques to it, but my training is my training and my communication is my communication. So, like that's not really going to change. And if I had a really bad experience with, I paid a bunch of money to train with this decoy from Mexico, and he basically like banged my dog around on a prong collar, and she don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
She barks in her guards, and he goes, no barking, no barking, no barking. And he's correcting her, and I go, stop it, you're loading her. She's barking more. Like she's not understanding what you want from her. And furthermore, I allow her to bark. You're expelling energy. It's a frickin' ring 1. She has plenty of energy. She'll get through it. When I went to trial, she had an out. 3 outs on 2 commands, and then finally the judge is like, all right, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and it was because that training decoy did not have the ability to adapt to what my dog needed and I was the client. Furthermore, I'm the client, right? I'm not telling you to do something out of your realm, but like, you know, do what I need you to do, right? So as a trial decoy, I need the decoys to do what they need to do.
Right. Being able to adapt to I get you were saying. Like as a trained decoy, you got to adapt to different systems, and as a trial decoy, you got to adapt to the different judges.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you tell me to do different stuff than other judges tell me to do.
PSA is subjective.
Yeah. I'm not having no problem with it. I'm just saying, like, it's always like, that's why I always check with the judges first. Like,
what do you want?
Yeah.
This weekend we had that judges like, what do you want on the muzzle attack? What do you want on this? What do you want on that? How do you want the dog's leg driven? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, and they're like, hey, I just want to know so I don't get in, like, I want to do it the way you want to do it. And I'm like, that's always the right answer. It's ask the judge what you want because it's the judge's field.
Right.
And so obviously the senior decoy has an opinion, but it's the judge's field.
Yeah. I'd much rather the judge be annoyed at me for asking too many questions than later be like, you weren't supposed to do it that way. And we never talked about it.
Yep. I cannot stand a decoy that doesn't know the rules. Right? Now, I do have a pet peeve, and I always go over it. Now, as the judge, I'm always going to start by the carjacking for the level 1. And so usually the senior decoys like over on the other end with the suited guys, suited girls. And so that one decoy's right there with their hidden sleeve. And I always go, hey, especially if we've never worked before, like, hey, just so you know, I have a huge pet peeve. The rule book states gunshot, so walk up, talk, act like you're leaving, turn, gunshot, arm, fight, gunshot, fight, freeze up. And a lot of decoys make a mistake. They go turn, arm in, gunshot. Well, now you've binkied that dog. Now you've satisfied that dog with a grip. The whole idea is to startle that dog. And a decoy in Vegas did the first one, and I'm like, hey, just this is how you do it. And like, she got a bunch of dogs. A bunch of dogs went, woo, and like took a half a step back. She stole points from that dog because people train it wrong. People do it wrong in training, and they teach it bite, gun. It's gun before bite. Mm-hmm. And that's why we train it gun before bite. Gun equals bite, like clatter stick equals bite, like can curtain equals bite. It's the stimulus, the auditory stimulus cues the grip, cues the reward, which is technically what the grip is the reward. You know, when we let our dogs bite in trial, it's because like they're happy. This is finally they get to do what they were actually trained to do after all that freaking obedience.
Right.
Right. Anything else you look for in a trial decoy? Who do you like working with as a trial? Like, what kind of decoys are you? Do you like someone that matches your energy? Do you like someone that has a different energy than you? Do you like someone bigger than you? Someone the same size?
The size doesn't matter to me. For me,
doesn't matter.
I think I would say 2 different, because it depends if it's obedience or protection. Like obedience, I don't really like. Obviously, all I need is you to like match my, like be fun and match my energy.
Okay.
Like,
so energy matching.
Yeah, like just let's play on each other. Like if I start blanking, you take over the slack for a second, and then you start blanking out like that.
Okay.
But protection, you just need to bring like know the scenarios, know where we got to be at the times, and then just bring pressure. Because like it would be annoying. Like okay, the way the PDC and the ones are designed is a specific way to try to even put more progressive stress on the dog. Yeah. Where it's a civil bite first, we're very defensive, and then another defensive bite, guy comes from hiding, and can your dog take that now? Yeah. So like if I set the guy up with a good carjacking, the dog was hesitating, but he got through because it's just the carjacking, I need you to fucking finish the job. But if you're just there now like blah 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 blah, then it's gonna be like I don't even want to, like you're just wasting all our time now. The
only national I as a PSA decoy, I I decoyed at least 1 regionals, right? I wasn't an amazing decoy. I was okay. The only trial I ever got to judge, that I got to decoy at nationals, was 2011. I was chosen with Jeff Riccio to decoy the Pitbull Nationals. And that was really cool. The judge was Ron Marshall, old school Schutzen trainer, likes pressure, trains dogs with aggression. Shout out to Ron if he's listening, like, phenomenal trainer that I got to meet back in the day. And I said, what do you want us to do? We're PSA decoys. Like, tell us what you want us to do. And he goes, okay, there's a novice, like vanilla, be easy, let him win. The open division, he goes, run those dogs off my field. And I said, say less, right?
Oh, say less.
So I looked at the decoy. I was doing the front half. I look at the decoys doing the back half. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to let you work any dogs today. And he was like, come on, man, like, let me work some dogs. And I ran, or the dogs didn't out, all but one of the dogs. The dog that got through, the dog that bit him was the dog that won, right? But everyone was mad at me for running all these dogs. And I'm like, you could have signed up for the novice. You signed up for the advanced. I was told to run your dog.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be that much pressure. I go, I did the pressure that I was told to do. I did my job. Don't be mad at me. Don't complain if your dog's not trained.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll say, I guess my favorite decoys, like, to shout out, I guess you could say, would be Wilden, Bloodworth.
Shout out to Wilden.
Yeah.
We love Wilden.
Justin Poole, I like working with him. He's funny.
Justin's cool.
And I like running around with him.
Yep.
He always
That's why you
engages.
always see him at our trial decoying.
Yep. And then I've been enjoying working with Val. Val does a lot of, like, he's always there, like, he'll see something happen and he'll just be behind you, like, all right, now do this now, like, and then because he knows what, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Shout out to Val. He's more
the background guy though, like.
Yes.
He's like an assist.
But he's puppeteering.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's the assist. He's Dwayne Wade in the picture with LeBron.
Hell yeah. I love it. And then the key thing for me is, like, once they don't yell, they don't go into prey mode until I yell prey bite. And then the second I yell prey bite, they have to know what to do.
Right.
And that means you got to drop distractions, you got to turn around, you got to run away, and you got to make prey, which is like move your arm, kick your leg out, and make the dog happy. You know, like, one of the decoys that I personally see run the most amount of dogs on a consistent basis, Adriana Ray. Adriana Ray runs a ton of dogs, or dogs don't want to out off of her. And she's not huge, but she gets in dogs' heads. And I've seen her run way more dogs than a lot of other decoys consistently. And then
Justin
Campos. Justin Campos, shout out to Justin. Justin's amazing. Justin runs a ton of dogs. This is why unfortunately he got injured, but I wanted Justin to come out and decoy our trial because I want to watch him run dogs.
Yeah.
I know he's not going to run our dogs. I want to watch him run dogs, right? Because this is what we're doing. We're testing dogs, right? Now, with that said, he gives the dogs the most rewarding prey bite experiences that I've ever seen. I've seen him, like, go down on the ground and, like, really help these dogs and rebuild these dogs. And I'm like, dude, you're way nicer than I am. Once I won, I'd give you a bite. Here's a few seconds. I'll get him off of me. Right? You go back to train, you know? So, like, the people don't like him because he runs dogs. I like him because he runs dogs, but I like him because he runs dogs, and I respect him for the fact that he understands to not let that dog. It's the same thing like you were saying earlier. He beat the handler, he beat the training decoy, but he's not there to beat the dog. Yeah. Once he saw what the dog needs, and for me as a judge, I'm going to yell prey bite the second I see any sort of avoidance behavior, not just a pop off. I've seen dogs pop off and then pop back on and then stay on the grip. If they pop off and they show a shoulder, sideways movement, head down, turning around, all of that equals prey bite, and boom, right away go into prey mode. Mm-hmm. Right? So that is the decoy's job. The decoy's job is to run your dog off the field. If you are not properly preparing the dog for that fight, for trial, you are an asshole. Okay? You are not there to train with your ego. Your dog is not an extension of your ego. Your dog is an animal. It is a dog. Train it. Build it for the fight. If your decoy can't do it, find someone that can, or your decoy should learn how to do it, or, like, as training decoys, we should always strive to get better, but I have to properly prepare. The one thing I will say, I've had dogs from my system go in, and then, like, first time they go to trial in the ones, they won't out. No problem. I'll fix that. But a dog that don't out don't get ran. Okay? So, like, I made him too sexy. It's like the show, the movie Neighbors 2. when, Seth Rogen's in his car and all the sorority
water.
girls are in their bikinis and she's like, get away from me, and heathens with the hose. And he's like, stop it. You're making them sexier. Like, I want to make the dog too sexy to the point, okay, they might not out, but they ain't going to get ran, right? But we've done that through systematically building this dog, but that's an easy problem to fix. When I see a dog get ran on Saturday and then the dog's entered on Sunday, and if that dog bites on Sunday, I will pay whatever the amount is to go to that seminar that trainer is giving, and I want to know what miracle session they did that rebuilt hope on Saturday night. You can't build hope that quick. Hope takes a long time to build, and confidence takes a long time to build. Properly prepare the dogs, and then when they're ready, bring them to the fight, and then they will win.
Yeah.
If you send them to the fight too early, they might get knocked out, right? You're going to heal prey bite. Like, that's the last thing I want to hear.
Right.
That means that I failed. I failed that dog, and I failed that handler. And the handler failed the dog by me failing the handler and the dog, right? Because they're also they're the ones that signed the dog up for trial, right? So prepare the dogs for the fight. Find you a training decoy. Find you a training decoy that's also a trial decoy, so he or she understands the mentality of both. Find you someone who can do both. It's like if he wanted to, he would, right? If he wanted to help you build the dog, he would. He might not be capable of helping you build the dog.
Yeah.
Right? And then that's always an answer. If someone tells you, we can't do it. If someone tells you that your dog's a washout, go find another trainer. Go find another trainer. Easy answer. Thank you. I appreciate it. I am now a washout of your system. No problem. I will find a system that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I agree.
Thank you, Isaiah.
No problem.
Heather.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, it's as much information as we can give out about the insight into like how to make these dogs successful. That's really what's important to me, right? I really want to thank you all for tuning in. Give us a like, give us a share, hit the thumbs up button, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.